All right, gentlemen, today we are starting with the cost management chapter, that is the chapter 7. Chapter 7, as you know, cost management is one of the objectives like scope and time. We have already studied scope and time, and now cost is very closely related with them because as scope and time changes, cost is also affected by them, and also cost can impact either one of those things. So these are the basic objectives, and therefore we have to be a little bit more careful about them. As far as the processes are concerned, we only have three processes in cost management as far as the planning are concerned. And in monitoring and control, we have the control cost. Now, in planning, like any other knowledge area, we develop a management plan for cost, and the process is plan cost management. And in this, the cost management plan will be developed. Naturally, it will include all the details and instructions and guidelines about how to estimate the cost, how to determine the cost, and how to control the cost later. After we have the cost management plan, which tells us how to do the estimations, it gives us the principles and rules for that. We estimate the cost. And naturally, like we estimated the duration and the resources, estimation of a cost is almost similar to that. Then we determine the budget. And in determination of the budget, uh, it is a time when somebody who is going to allocate you the budget ascertains his own budgetary estimate and then compares it with what figures you have come up with, and then both of these parties have to discuss it, negotiate it, and ultimately remove any ambiguities, and ultimately they reach a decision how much budget is to be allocated not only to the project but to each and every activity. Budget must be allocated down to the activity level, because if we do not do that, then later on it will be difficult to control. So we don't want to leave any ambiguity at all, and we want to have proper control of the cost, and that can only be possible if we have decided on the budget at the activity level. And later on, just like the control of scope and time, we control the cost is almost similar to the controlled schedule process. Naturally, as we were more concerned about the timely completion of the project in time management, here we want to plan, estimate, budget, finance, fund, manage, and control the cost as if the project can be completed within the approved budget. And that is the approved budget which I just said has to be down to the activity level. So these are the four processes. As I just explained to you, the cost management plan will be developed in the plan cost management, and this gives us all the policies and procedures. Estimate cost is the process of developing an approximation. Remember, estimate is always an approximation because you are trying to predict the future. No matter how well based your estimate is, it is still an approximation. But better the estimate, more likelihood is that this estimate is going to be near to the actual figures. Determine the budget is yet another process which checks the estimate of the cost prepared by the project manager and his team. It adds them all up, aggregates them, and then inspects individual activities or work packages to establish an authorized cost baseline. And in control, naturally, is the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project cost. Like time management, here also these activities of estimation and budgeting are considered to be kind of very tightly linked, and they could be handled by the same people, and therefore this is generally assumed that a single person can do it if there is a very small project. Again, I have the same objection there. These are two separate processes, they have two separate purposes, they have separate tools. And though it may be done by two different people, but even if it is done by one single person, then he must know how to estimate and how to budget. So, anyways, this will be done in a short period of time in such cases where the project is very short and it looks like that it is one and the same thing. The ability to influence cost is greatest at the early stages of the project. We have seen a graph earlier in which we have seen that if there are changes earlier in the life of the project, the impact on cost will be minimal. But as we move on with the life of the project, more we are nearer to the end, more are the chances that we are going to spend enormous amounts on that. So therefore, we must understand that changes, if possible, should be brought as soon as possible, as if they incur lesser cost. Then we are also concerned about the stakeholder requirements, and we have been taking it right from the beginning: identification of the stakeholder, analysis of the stakeholder. Then we collected the requirements from the stakeholder. Project cost management should consider the stakeholder requirements for managing the cost. Different stakeholders will measure project cost in different ways at different times. So we have got so many stakeholders, and everyone has their own view as to the spending of the cost is concerned. Someone wants to know, according to how much time, how much money has been spent. Someone wants to know what is the percentage of the funds, and so on and so forth. The different perspectives can be made clear by these examples. For example, cost of an acquired item may be measured when the acquisition decision is made or committed. So for someone, as soon as we have made the decision to spend some money and the decision is made, for some stakeholders, the money is committed at that point in time. Some people can only consider the money committed after the order has been placed. Some people will consider the money committed after the item ordered has been delivered. The actual cost is, or some people will consider when actually the money goes out of your pocket, or when it is recorded into the accounting system. So you see, you have to develop a system in which you can, satisfy all the stakeholders and their requirements regarding the cost spending. The primary concern here is with the cost of resources needed to complete the project activities. We have already talked about the resources in the time management chapter, and naturally they cost money. So if I increase or decrease the number of resources, the money to be spent at that specific point in time would increase or decrease. It should also consider the effect of project decisions on the subsequent recurring cost of using, maintaining, and supporting the product, service, or result of the project. So we should not only be concerned about how much we are spending on the project, but the way we are doing the project, how much is going to be the operating cost of that, how we are going to maintain it in future. Maybe there are certain solutions which are very cheap in the outlook, but later on they are very expensive to maintain. So these decisions are also to be considered. As we said that we will estimate, and estimate is a approximation. So this is more about predicting and analyzing the prospective financial performance of the project's product. Of the project product is performed outside of the project. In others, project cost management can include this. So if it is included in the cost management, it may address additional processes and numerous general financial management techniques such as return on investment, discounted cash flows, investment payback analysis, etc. So it all depends upon what kind of system you are having, how are you managing the cost. If it is tied up with the financial decision making, maybe project manager needs to know a bit of financial management as well. Otherwise, maybe cost management is enough as far as the project is concerned. So again, it depends upon what kind of prediction analysis is required, and that's how you are going to go deeper into the art of cost and financing. Cost management planning effort occurs early in the project planning because we are predicting, we are approximating. So as soon as possible, we try to predict how much are the going to be the costs of various items and tasks which we are going to be doing. So for each cost management process, we must have some rules and frameworks established so the performance of the processes will be efficient and coordinated, properly coordinated. Before we can move on to each one of these processes, which is rather a simpler matter, I need to discuss one thing here and another important thing at the end of the cost management chapter. Here I want to discuss various assessment tools or methods for the project. Now, this is not only concerned with the cost, this is concerned with the feasibility or the assessment or any kind of analysis you are running on a project or a number of projects. You see, just forget about we are talking about the cost management chapter here. Just remember whenever you are making a decision, how do you decide between more than one choices? I'm talking about the feasibility, I'm talking about the business case, I'm talking about a lot many decisions you may be taking during the life of a project. So, whenever you have got alternatives, you decide based on what? Basically, what we think is that normally our decisions are based on the finances. Whichever is is the cheapest solution, whichever is the most economical solution, we normally go for it. That might be true, but this is not the only uh, assumption or only type of assessment. This thing which I just said, the financial decision, this is basically an economic assessment. But before conducting the economic assessment, you might have certain technical limitations. You may have a technical requirement to fulfill, and if something is not technically feasible, you may not even like to consider its economic assessment. So, no matter how economically feasible that idea is, if it is not technically suitable, you will straight away drop it. And even to top that, there is yet another kind of assessment that is called a strategic assessment, which is in at the top priority level. Even if an idea is economically and technically feasible and it is not suitable for the organization from strategic point of view, so strategically it could be dropped and we may forget about technical and economic assessment, howsoever good they are. So in order of priority, if we look at it, strategy takes the first precedence, the top precedence, then is the technology, and then is the economy. But interestingly, this is not must that there will be a strategic or technical limitation on the project. There can be and there may not be. So if there is no strategic or technical limitation, which in a way could be considered optional, then the third assessment is always mandatory. Economic assessment is always going to be there no matter what. You can't skip that. If there is no strategic and technical limitation, you have to see that whichever solution is economically more sound, you will have to go for that. And because it is done so often that we generally forget about the strategic and technical aspect when we talk only based on the finances, all the decisions looks like financial in nature. Although here we are more concerned about economic assessment, but I will give you a brief overview of strategic and technical assessment as if you can have a fair understanding what these assessments could be. As we understand, our organization has a strategy. they have got a direction. They have made some strategic decisions. They have certain strategic objectives to meet. So if those strategic objectives are to be met, that becomes the supreme thing for making any kind of decisions for the project. Although organizations do call for the technical or financial assessment to support their decision, but sometimes if strategy is so important to them, they may even skip everything else and decide based on the strategy, because strategy is the most important element. So the objectives of the organization, the information systems plan, the existing organizational structure, how we are structured, that might take priority over anything. The management information system, or the people, the manning level, and the existing employer skill base could be a deciding factor, a strategic factor, and you may decide against the technology or even economy if it is more comfortable with your people, if it is more important for you to take into account the comfort of your people, and so therefore you may make a strategic decision to go for it. And sometimes it is for just for image, just to maintain your repo in front of the customer. I'll just give you an example. Suppose your CEO has committed to a client to do a project free of cost. Now, if this commitment has been made by the CEO at the top executive level, then do you have to look at the financial aspects of that? I understand if you are going to do this project, you will have to spend some money, but because we are not going to get paid from the customer, should we not be doing it religiously, or should we not be doing that project at all? If you look at it from financial point of view or economic point of view, you should not be doing it. But because it is a strategic decision, because it is a commitment, because it is a matter of repo, no matter whether it is technically sound or not, it is financially sound or not, you will have to do it just for upkeep of your image. So you see, these are certain strategic assessment issues which guide you to give more importance towards the strategy as compared to the technical or financial. Then we have studied program management and portfolio management. So program management, as you know, is a collection of projects. They are contributing to the same overall organizational goals. So these are well-defined goals. Therefore, the strategic objectives of programs are naturally more heavier than those of projects. They are more directly associated with the strategy of the organization. So a program will always get more preference than any of the existing projects. Program must be more important for the organization. If organization has to decide whether to start a project, standalone project, or a project within a program, no matter how equal both of these ideas are, but the project which is going to be started within a program might be more important due to the strategic objectives of the program. Therefore, that would take a strategic precedence. Similarly, in portfolio management, we have certain strategic decisions to make. Naturally, here we have portfolio managers who are very watchful of the fact that naturally they are looking at the investment decision making, but more so it is a strategic decision making. They have to decide which projects and which programs to do and which not to do. They have the power to kill a project if they feel it is not according to the strategic alignment of the organization, or they can start new projects or programs. So therefore, these are again strategic decisions. So portfolio management is also making some kind of strategic decision. So these are just the examples of what the strategic decisions could be, and they can naturally supersede the technical and financial decisions. On the other hand, the technical assessment, in this we evaluate the required functionality against hardware and software available. Maybe we are bringing in a new system and it is not compatible with our existing system. So that might be a technical hindrance. So if there is no strategic limitation, then this could become the biggest limitation: technical incompatibility. If that thing doesn't fit with our strategic information systems plan, if there are certain limitations on the nature of solution, because if we adopt this solution, we'll be bound to, use specific items, or we have to get into specific kind of contract with a customer that is kind of, having limitations which are not otherwise required. Or maybe there are constraints influencing the cost of solution due to this technical assessment. So technical assessment would also take its precedence over the economic assessment. But naturally, uh, technical assessment, technical limitations and strategic limitations may or may not be there. What is permanent and what is going always going to be there is the economic assessment, and that is the financial aspect of the solution. So whichever option you are going to choose, you ultimately would be deciding on the cost basis of the cost and benefit. So the most famous tool for this is cost benefit analysis. Now we will talk about the cost benefit analysis now, and that is what we need to discuss here. But again, I would say do not forget about the technical and the strategic assessment, because they are also important in their own place, and they are higher in precedence. Moreover, you could also have a way of doing it that you may give some weightage to all these three kinds of assessment. Maybe in your organization, you have decided that 50% weightage will be given to the strategy, 20% weightage will be given to the technical, and 30% weightage is carried by the this financial or economic assessment. So yes, you can decide this kind of thing, and that would create a balance. But whatsoever it is, cost benefit analysis is about the cost. So in cost benefit analysis, we want to be sure whatever venture we are going to undertake, that venture should be beneficial for the organization as far as the cost is concerned. So whatever we invest into that project or that venture must be able to yield more benefits than what the cost has been. So a normal formula would be the net benefit is equal to total benefit minus total cost. If the total benefits are more than the total cost, only then it will be called feasible. So we have three kinds of costs and three kinds of benefits. You see, when we talk about cost, it is always cash getting out of our money, of our pockets. Costs are not in kind. Costs are always cash. So you see, we have to, it doesn't really apply to the project only. This applies to any situation in your life. If you have to start a venture, there has to be some development cost, and that is the development of the idea of that venture. You may have to conduct some feasibilities, you may have to spend some money in ideation of that idea, of that project. And once you find it feasible, then you decide to do it. And to do it, you need to install the hardware, software, or whatever is required. The physical equipment has to be put in place, the people have to be hired, the recruitments have to be done. So this is the mobilization cost, this is the setup cost, which actually is the cost spent during the project. And after the project has delivered and it goes into operations, then it will be maintained, it will be run, it will be operated, and that will also carry some cost. So I'm not only talking about the cost of the project, I'm talking about the cost of the ideation of the project, the cost of setting it up and doing it, and the cost of operating it, all the costs put together is called your total cost. But as far as the benefits are concerned, again, there are three kinds of benefits. Whatever you wanted to create out of this project or this venture is the direct benefit. If it was a financial benefit, then naturally you can measure it as easily as possible as compared to the cost spent. But normally speaking, it is not going to be a financial benefit all the time. These may be some direct benefits. Actually, what you set out to create, if you create that, that would have benefited you maybe in cash or otherwise, but that benefit was the target, and therefore that is the direct benefit. Sometimes there are some accessible indirect benefits. Maybe, during the process of doing this project, you have created some uh, defective items which are of no benefit to you otherwise, as far as the project is concerned, but you can sell them in scrap and still make some money out of it. Or there is something produced out of the project which was not the main objective of the project, but that is also going to give you some kind of little benefit. So those are called accessible indirect benefits. Then we have got the intangibles. Intangible benefits are which are classically not measurable. So we can somehow translate the direct benefits and accessible indirect benefits into cost, into cash. But the intangible benefits are more difficult to be assessed as benefits. For example, you say that by doing this project, my people have learned a lot. So what is the worth of this learning a lot? My people have become more happy. So what is the cost of being happy? So these are intangibles which cannot be measured. From all financial perspectives, from the world of cost management, this intangible benefit is considered to be not measurable. They cannot be measured. But from project perspective, we would like to assign some value to even these intangible benefits from psychological point of view. So we do want to assign that there are intangible benefits, and if somebody is happy, that add some value to my organization. So if somehow I can translate into the dollar amount or rupee comparative, that would be much better. But the crux of the matter is we must consider all costs and we must consider all benefits. Once I have the total cost and once I have the total benefit, I can find the net benefit. As I said, net benefit would be equal to total benefit minus total cost. And if the answer is positive, then it is feasible, otherwise, it is not feasible. So, that is the main formula for that. As we say that this is the prediction, this is forecasting. So basically, when we create cash flows for a project or any venture for that matter, forecasting is we are trying to predict how much money would be spent over the life of the project. That project has yet not started, but we are contemplating. We are saying that this much money will be spent on day one, this much money will be spent on day two, and so on and so forth. And then we will start getting something back, some income will start coming back, and maybe we will be able to earn after 6 months, we will be able to earn this much money, and so on and so forth. So anyways, that is the thing which is coming back to you is the benefit. The thing which is going from your pocket is the cost. So the net cost and benefit at any point in time would be shown as a point on your cash flow. Like you see, in the beginning of the project, if you look at this chart, in the beginning of a project, the expenditures will be more, the cost will be more, and there will be almost no benefits. I set up a new business, I set up a new project, so it will be going in negative. No, the money which is going out of my pocket is called negative. So it will be going in negative, and I'll keep investing in this project or this investment at till a point that my investment starts stabilizing. I'm not saying that it is a cost break even point. This is the point where whatever I invest, that is the amount I get back. I mean, on daily basis. I have started a shop. Initially, I have to fill in the racks. I have to buy a lot of equipment. So I'm just spending and spending and spending, and only few things are being sold. So ultimately, I am spending more in this period. But as we reach this point, this is the point where I spend 1,000 rupees a day and I get thousand rupees back. It does not mean that all the money I have invested in this business so far has been recovered. I am just recovering the daily expense. So this is the point where my expenditure has reached a limit where which I can catch up, yeah, match up on a daily basis. And then I start going into a little better situation where I spend more and I spend less and I get more, a little more than what I spend. So this graph starts going up, and over the period of time it will reach the point where whole of my investment to date will be recovered, and this is called the break even point. And from that point onwards your actual profit starts. Now your investment is less and your benefits are more. So you are going up. You will somehow reach the peak of your benefit. And at that point, you may not be able to go above that point, but you can sustain that for a longer period of time. That is your business strategy, how you sustain yourself. But no business is going to be there forever. And therefore, over a longer period of time, your business will keep sliding down until and unless it is no more. So this is generally a graph of the cash flow forecasting in which you see how you are putting in your investment and how you are getting your benefits. So at the end of the day, when the business has gone down the drain, even if you kick it with some more investment, that is not be very much beneficial. I would rather say that this kick should have been provided when you were at the peak of the business. Normally, we do not do that, and that is a bad decision making. We should not wait for the business to collapse and then try to fund it again to make it survive for a little more time. We should rather be doing that when we are at our peak. That is another thing. We are not really much concerned about that point, but this shows you that it is all the forecasting and which I have done even before the business or the project has ever started. So this kind of graph will be there. Okay, in the previous slide it says uh, accurate cash flow forecasting is not easy. Rather, I will say it is not possible. You cannot be 100% accurate about what you predict in your forecast, because that is the picture which emerges in front of you at that point in time. You don't know what actually will happen to you, although you employ your best resources and you do your best to create the best cash flow. It needs to be done early in the project life cycle. We can't wait for the project to start and the facts to become available as to do the forecasting, because forecasting is something which has to be done as early as possible, as if we can start. Benefits of these, which we have predicted that we will get certain benefits, they are not to be gained very soon. They are far too far away from present point when we start, because first we will keep investing and investing, and then there will be a day, maybe in a business, maybe many years later, we will be able to break even, and then we will actually be going into the profits. In cash flow forecasting, we generally ignore the effect of inflation as it increases uncertainty. Now inflation is an outside uncertainty, so we do not consider that. Why should we not consider that? People think that inflation must be considered in the forecast. But you see, when you're comparing more than one projects, then whatever the inflation will impact on one project, the same impact will be on other projects. Therefore, if we can ignore the effect of inflation on all projects, we will have exactly the same kind of results. So we do not want to make the things more difficult. That's why we do not take in the account of inflation. If expenditure increases, so does the income. So if there is more inflation, expenditure is more, so income will also be inflated accordingly. So these are some basic principles. Now let us look at this this example. We have four projects in front of us. Project 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let us assume that we have invested at the beginning of these projects certain amounts. For project 1, we have invested 100,000. For project 2, we have invested 1 million. Project 3, we have invested again 100,000. And project 4, we have invested 120,000. Let us assume that all of these projects are of equal duration. That is just for the sake that I want to compare them. So I will keep them of equal duration, 5 years each. And then I do the forecasting, and these are my forecasts on yearly basis. Project 1 will yield 10,000 after 1 year. Then after another year, at the end of second year, it yields another 10,000 and another 10,000 after third year, 20,000 after fourth year, and 100,000 after the 5 years. So these positive figures again shown against each year are the positive figures. These are the benefits. Whereas the negative figure which I have invested is my cost, total cost. So if I can sum up all the benefits, they come out to be, in the case of project 1, 150,000. So if I put it in the formula, net benefit is equal to total benefit minus total profit, total cost, then it would be 150 minus 100,000 comes out to be the net benefit, or for that matter, net profit would be 50,000. Project 2, you calculate it for it gives you 100,000. Project 3 gives you 50,000. Project 4 gives you 75,000. So from the basic principle, from the basic law or rule of net benefit, all of these projects are feasible because they are giving you more than what you have invested in it. And if you want to compare these projects, it looks like from the net profit that project 2 might be the best project because it is giving you the highest amount, right? We will see which is better and which is not, but I am just showing you this example which I am going to follow in subsequent examples. We have got a number of ways to do the cost benefit analysis, and for that, one is the net profit I have just shown you. That was, net profit was total benefit minus total cost. Then we have got yet another method which is called payback period. Which of these projects pays us back the amount we have invested in it? So sometimes this might be the main concern, that I want to be paid back as soon as possible. And the time in recovery of my investment is of prime importance. So if that be the case, I would be going for payback period. Third is return on investment. You see, net profit method did show us the benefit, but it did not take into account certain things. So to take into account those things, we will use the return on investment method, which will give you the yearly profit percentage to compare with. Net present value is like, the present value of money is based on present value of money. We'll talk about it. And lastly, we have internal rate of return. So let me take them one by one. First of all, the net profit, as I've already discussed it with you, it is simple. Add up all the cost, add up all the benefits, subtract all the cost from the benefits, and if the answer is positive, it is feasible. So this is the basic principle. But if we compare these four projects, project 2 appears to be the best project, project 4 appears to be the second best, and 1 and 3, project 1 and 3 seems to be equal in weight. Now let us compare them. Why project 2 should be the best? Any comments? Do you agree with this assessment?
No, like I don't think the project two would be best because its main amount is coming very far away from in the fifth year. So
Very good, very good.
only
You see,
I think project four is little much better.
okay,
I mean, as a candid assessment.
okay, that is very right. That is very right. You have indicated an anomaly, but basically what we are talking here is net profit, and net profit shows these figures. If I only consider net profit, then these are the figures. But yes, we may have a disagreement, like the fact you have given. The second reason, anyone else coming up with another reason why it is not a good method?
Because the amount is like 1 million spent and the ROI is more or less the same percentage.
Right. So the investment going into project 2 is almost 10
Very,
times the other projects, and it is only giving 2 times more. This is not really very good.
yeah,
So therefore it
yeah.
means that investment has not been taken into account in calculating the net profit. So if we somehow can take into account the investment, that would give us a better picture. And as Adil Saab, you were saying, uh, if I compare project 1 and 3, you see they show the net profit as exactly equal. Their initial investment is equal, their net profit is equal, but the pattern in which the money is being recovered is very different. In project 1, we are getting very less money in the beginning and a big amount in the end. Whereas project 3 is consistent throughout. So which should be better? There should be one better than the other, but there is no comparison. And as you said, overall, it looks like that project 4 should be the best one. But you see, we don't have anything to prove that. Let us try to find those ways of how to prove it. So net profit may give you an approximation of about the feasibility of the project, whether it is feasible or not, but how good or bad it is as compared to others, it probably is not a very good method for that. Let's move on to the other method, which is payback period. Which project pays you back the earliest? In project 1, you have invested 100,000 rupees. You are getting 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. In 4 years, you only recover 50,000. It is deep into the fifth year that you will be able to recover all your money, right? And that 50,000 net profit, which is shown here, that would only be yielded in the very last year. So the payback period for first project could be something like 4.5 or something, 4.5 years. If you look at project 2, 10 lakh rupees, 1 million has to be recovered. 2000, 200, 200, 200, 200. It in 4 years it is unable to completely recover all the money, and it is almost 4.6 years that it will recover all that money. Project 3, you invested 100,000, you recovered 90,000 in the first 3 years, and by 1/3 of the next year you would have recovered the total amount. That means it was 3.33 years. Project 4, it exactly takes 4 years for the recovery. So from the payback period, project 3 is the best option. Then is project 4, then is project 1, and last is project 2. Why do we decide sometimes on the payback period? There must be certain situations where I am more oriented towards the payback period method of cost benefit analysis. And that would be, you have started your business taking a loan from the bank. If you do not pay back the loan, the interest will keep increasing. So you are not really concerned about how much you are going to earn from your business, but the main concern here is to pay back the loan. So you will go for that business which can be so, so good that it can recover your money as soon as possible. And after that, if the recovery is slow, if the benefits start coming slow after that period, maybe in the first 2 years it can recover my money, and later it doesn't, generate that much of benefits. I am not really worried about it, because then I own the business and I do not have to pay back any interest or anything to anyone. I can live with it. I can live with a little less benefit or profits, but at the same time, I am no more paying back this money to anyone. So, where the investment comes from elsewhere, this might be the best way of selecting a business or project which should have a shorter payback period. Then we come over to the ROI, return on investment. This is also called accounting rate of return. Do not compare this with a bank rate or anything. No, it is not the interest rate, it is not nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do with the interest rate. What is ARR or ROI? This is simply the net profit divided into the 5 years you have spent. So it is average annual profit. The net profit was 50,000 in first case. So if I equally divide it into the 5 years of business, it would be 10,000 per year. And what is 10,000 per year as compared to my investment of 100,000? That is 10%. So simple formula for that would be average annual profit divided by total investment multiplied by 100. That would give me project 1 to be 10%. ROI of project 1 is 10%. And if we calculate the ROI project 2, that would come out to be hardly 2%. Project 3, 10%. Project 4, 12.5%. So here I would support the idea of what Adil Saab was saying. Project 4 seems to be the best project as far as ROI is concerned. But the reasons are not the same. Adil Saab was saying that based on something which is called payback period. Sorry, not payback period, net and present value. But anyways, even from ROI point of view, project 4 seems to be a better option. So this is more, sane to look at things from ROI point of view. But if you look at it closely, even this is not a very good method. although it has considered the investment amount in computing the ROI for the each project. But if you observe closely, yes, project 2 has been proven to be the worst project. Yes, project 4 has been proven to be the best project, but it is yet unable to differentiate between the project 1 and project 3. You see, the investment of project 1 and 3 is both 100,000. The net profit of project 1 and 2 is again 50,000 each. And the ROI of both the project is also 10% each. It has not taken into account the pattern in which the money is being recovered. Project 1 is recovering the money in a very poor pattern, very slowly, and later on large amounts at the end, whereas project 3 is consistent. So project 3 should have been declared better, but that means ROI does not take into account how the money is recovered. It is only concerned about how much is the net profit, and that is converted into average annual profit and divided by the investment to find the ROI. Am I clear on that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear.
So that was the easier part. Now let us go into another thing which is more interesting, and that is called net present value. Before I can talk about net present value, let us see if you know something about compound interest. Do you know what is a compound interest?
Yes, sir.
It is interest over interest. Like
Interest
I've
over interest.
borrowed 10 and there is interest of 10% on it. So
Right.
the total amount would be 11. So now they will put interest on that 11. That is how, this is what we call as compounding of interest over the years.
Compounding of interest, exactly. If anybody has not followed that, it is simply if I put 100,000 rupees in a bank and that bank is giving me a simple interest of 10%, I will get 10,000 after 1 year. So my 100,000 investment is secure in the bank and I get an interest of 10,000 on that. I can withdraw that amount after 1 year. I can come back again after 1 year and take away another 10,000. Every year I can take away 10,000 rupees from the bank. And my original investment keeps lying in the bank. I can't withdraw that. This is a simple interest. The compound interest is that I have put 100,000 in the bank and I am not taking it away. But you must see the deal with the bank. It should show that you are going for a compound interest. If it says it is a simple interest, they will not give you interest over interest. They will just give you 10,000 per year and they would say this was in the contract that we will just give you 10% simple interest. But it is if it is a compounded interest, what happens is you are not supposed to withdraw the profit after 1 year. And that money is reinvested in the same bank once again for another year. So after 1 year, you have got 100,000, your original amount, and your 10,000 is reinvested. So now you have two amounts there, 100,000 and a 10,000. And that money keeps lying for another year. Your 100,000 will again give you another 10,000 by the end of that second year. And that 10,000 will also give you 10%. That would give you a 1,000 rupee. So how much money is there in the bank in your account? That is 121,000 rupees. So if you keep that 121,000 rupees in the bank for one more year, the interest will be given on that 121,000 rupees, and that would be 12,100 rupees. That comes out to be 133,100. Sorry, yes. The third at the end of third year you will have 1,33,100 rupees. So that's how every year 10% will be added to that, to the whole amount, not to the basic amount. This is called compounded interest. Okay. So one way of calculating it is that I calculate it for 1 year, then put a 10% interest on it, then find the value for second year, then 10%, and so on and so forth. What if somebody asks you, uh, what will be the money you will be getting after 10 years? How is there a formula to calculate that? That is, I'm trying to predict the future value of my money after 10 years. So the formula for that would be future value is equal to present value multiplied by bracket start 1 plus interest rate bracket closed raised to the power number of years. Anyone following me on that?
Yes, sir.
That is,
Yes, sir.
the future value is equal to the present value multiplied by 1 plus interest rate
Um,
raised to the power number of years. Now, if your amount is 100,000 and the percentage is 10%, and maybe for 2 years you want to calculate, it would be 1 plus 10 by 100, which this becomes 1.1 raised to the power 2, which is going to be equal to 121,000. So you can change this value to 10 years and find out what your amount can be after 10 years. Do you get it?
yes, sir.
Okay. Now talking about the compound interest. Compound interest is exactly the opposite of this philosophy. Compound interest is exactly the opposite. It means I am not putting in any money into the bank right now. I am expecting a payment of 100,000 after 1 year, right? I am not expecting any, I did not put anything in the bank. But bank is promising me that they will give me 100,000 after 1 year. If I do not want to wait for 1 year, how much money should I ask them to pay me now and settle the account? Considering it is 10% interest. By the way, interest rate applies to the future values. If we want to calculate the future value from today onwards, it will be interest rate. But when we calculate backwards, the money which is going to be realized today from a future amount, that is not interest rate, that is called discount rate. So the formula for present value would be future value divided by 1 plus r raised to the power t or n, whatever you want to call it, but r stands for discount rate. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
So generally speaking, how much that money should be? The 100,000 bank promises to give you after 1 year. You don't want to wait for 1 year. You want whatever money can be paid to you right now. How much will you ask?
Lesser amount.
Lesser amount. Very nice. And how much would that be?
Have to be calculated with respect to the number of years and with the
Right.
discount rate.
Right. It is not simply subtracting 10% from 100,000. It will not be 90,000 rupees. If you try it out, you put 100,000 on top and divide it by 1.1 raised to the power, say, 1 year. So if it is 1 year, it is 1.1. So anything divided by 1.1 would be equal to 90,910 rupees. Are you able to listen to me? Everybody else? Adris is
Yes, sir.
having problem. Adris, आवाज आ रही है अदरीस की नहीं? Can you hear me now? जी अदरीस आ रही है आवाज की नहीं? Okay. Okay, so the formula here is that we have present value can be calculated by dividing the future expected value in n years or t years divided by 1 plus r raised to the power t. Now, can we write it like this, that value in year t multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power t? Will it be okay with you?
Yes, sir, it's okay. Same thing.
It is exactly the same thing. So let me write it that way. I say the present value is equal to future value multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus r raised to the power t. This portion, if I separate it from the formula, this is called the discount factor. This is the discount factor, whereas r is the discount rate. R is the discount rate and the whole thing is the discount factor. So this formula is for that. Now the interesting part is, if I only consider the discount factor, there is nothing in this formula. There are two ones and one R and one T. So there are only two unknowns, R and T. So if I can make a matrix, write R all the times here and just a moment. Are the times here and all the R's here, like you see, year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here I can write R 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and so on. So I can put the value of 1 year and 1% in R and T and calculate the values out of it. Whatever this small formula of discount factor is, I can calculate the value and write it right here. I can calculate what will be, say it is 10. So at this junction, I can write the value which is calculated with 10 placed in R and 5 placed in T. So whatever value comes, that would be written here. So I can create a complete matrix of this calculation. And if I know these figures, which would be something like 0.9091, they would be figures less than 1. So these figures would actually be the discount factor. So what I need to do, I simply have to multiply the relevant figure with my future value, and that will give me the answer. So I don't even have to use the formula. I can use a matrix which could be ready-made, and I can simply pick a value and multiply my future value with it and get the present value. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now look at this. Right. This is the matrix. This is called NPV discount factor table. NPV discount factor table. This table is so universal that it could be found in any accounting book or stats book. Or you can create your own. You can calculate all these values, or you can, create a worksheet on Excel and you can put in this formula of discount factor and calculate your own table. Now what is needed? Say the discount rate is 10% and you have got these 5 years. So the first year amount will be multiplied by 9091, second year amount will be multiplied by 0.8264, third year by 0.7513 and so on. So if I can apply this rule on my project 1, okay, tell me the investment of 100,000 rupees I am making, how much will it worth as present value at discount rate of 10%? I'll repeat, the investment of
90,000.
100,000 I am making, how much is it worth in present value at the discount rate of 10%?
910 rupees.
9,000 something. This 9091 minus 100.
Okay, give you one more chance. Think over it, what my question was. Your answer is wrong. I'm saying the investment of 100,000 you have just made. What is the present value of that money at discount rate of 10%?
Sir, what is the life of that? I mean, how many years, how many months?
Look at this table, when are you investing this money? When are you investing?
We are investing the first year. No, this sense, yes.
Look at it once again. Is it first year written there?
0 years.
It
No, no, it's
is in
zero.
the
It's,
beginning of the investment,
yeah, yeah.
0 year.
Sorry, while
So
I can't see that.
1.1 raised to the power 0 is what?
1.
1. So you see, the amount will not change because this is the present money in your pocket. So I am asking you, what is the present value of the money which is in your pocket? Do you get me or not? You have
I got you.
100,000 rupees in your pocket. I am asking
Yes.
you, how much are they worth? What is the present value of that money? It is 100,000.
It is 100,000 actually, yes.
Exactly. It is 100,000. The money in your
Yeah.
pocket is equal to the money in your pocket.
Yes, you're right.
So only talk about the money which is not in your pocket. The 10,000 rupees which is going to come after 1 year would be multiplied by 0.9091, and that would become 9,091. So if this has to be, no, if I have to assess how much is it worth today, then it is worth 9,091 rupees. The 10,000 rupees after 2 years, which is coming, worth today is 8,264 rupees, and so on and so forth. So if I can sum up all the present values, that comes out to be something like 99,000 something. Is it or not? 60, 70, 80,
Seven.
90, 99,000 and something it comes out to be. So if I subtract it from the present value of today's money, 100,000, no, not 99, it comes out to be 1,06,18. So if I subtract 100,000 from it, I am still in positive, but the net present value of all these monies over the last 5 years would be just 618. You see, it is still feasible. It is still feasible from net present value point of view, but it is a very, very small amount as compared to the net profit. So if you can compare the net profit with net present value, you can see the marked difference, because net profit did not take into account the present value of money, whereas NPV took into account the present value of money, and it tells you this after having worked hard for 5 years, you will only earn 618 rupees in total. And if I can do this for all the 4 projects, the figures would be something like this. Project 1, 600 and say 20 or 18, whatever. These are more exact, 620.92. Project number 2, net present value is minus 179,750.1. That means this is a project in total loss. Project 2, which net profit was showing very good, 100,000. This is actually a total loss project. From the present value of money, this is absolutely going 1,79,000 minus. Project 3 is 13,000. Project 4 is 21,000. So from the point of view of net present value, the best project is project 4, then is project 3, then project 1, and the worst project is project 2. And the interesting thing which happened here is that now we can differentiate between project 1 and project 3, because the net present value is different. Project 3 is better than project 1. Why? Because it was consistently giving you 30,000 every year, whereas project 1 was giving very small amounts in the beginning and a large amount at the end. So that is a very bad picture. That yielded only $620. Whereas with the same investment and a better pattern of recovery, you have 13,723 in the project 3. So you see, net present value is more intelligent a method. This will give you a better value. None of the earlier methods could differentiate between project 1 and project 3. Got it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, the last method is internal rate of return. And what is internal rate of return? Actually, this is very similar to NPV, rather, it is NPV. But NPV had a flaw, and that was we were taking the discount rate as our basic percentage for calculations of the present value. From where has this discount rate come? Who gave me the discount rate?
From the
These are
SABOR or the State Bank?
right. So this is the bank, right? This is the bank. Maybe it is State Bank of Pakistan or some other country or whatever, but this is the percentage, the discount rate is issued by that country. Now, why I am doing my own business and my business is not bound by a bank. Is it bound by a bank? Am I not allowed to make more money than what bank says?
Why
If
not?
my business is good, I can double my money in 1 year. I can do wonders. Why should I always be calculating according to the discount rate? What do you say?
The benchmark, sir.
Because the bank rate is based upon environmental factor as well.
No, 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 no. Bank rate is not based on the environmental factor. This is based on the banking factor. The banking factor is the bank takes your money and lends it to others, right? So when it takes you the money, takes your money, it pays you a discount rate. Sorry, it pays you the interest rate. And when you lend money from the bank, you pay back the discount rate. So they are not the same. There is a difference between discount rate and interest rate. This difference is the money by which the banks are running. So
Operating.
this is the profit of the bank.
So that's called the bank spread.
Bank spread, exactly. So the difference between interest rate and discount rate is how the banks earn their money. And it is not all. This is the very innocent way of looking at it. But bank does not take your money and lends it to another person. They are very crook in that. They invest your money in business. They invest your money in market shares and a lot many other things. And why do they invest there? Because there is nothing in banking. You know, the difference between the discount rate and interest rate is so small that it is just like a money changer. It is nothing more than that. But banks make millions by investing your money into successful ventures and doubling and tripling your money and giving you just a bit of 10% and making you happy with that. So when I'm using NPV, that is good enough if I'm trying to compare my business with a bank. If I'm not making as much as bank can give me, I should not do that business at all. But that is not a point that I should not make more money than that. Because bank also invests in businesses and I am a business, I am starting my own business. If bank can invest in businesses which can multiply their money, why can't I multiply my money? So why should I be governed by the discount rate? There must be some internal strength of my own business and I have to discover that. And that is called the internal rate of return. Internal rate of return is not dependent on the bank rate, on the discount rate. Are you okay with this theory?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. This is this is one.
Okay, if you're okay with this, then I'll give you another concept. And that is, we will use the same NPV formula, the same method. But now we have removed the bank rate, the discount rate from there. And we have to find our IRR. We have to get internal rate of return from the NPV formula. Meaning what? The unknown is the value of R, the internal rate of return, that is my IRR. This is basically now the R. I don't know R. I want to find the R. How can I find this R? Without R, I can't calculate the formula. So how do I do that? If R is unknown, how will you calculate?
So make the NPV equal to 0.
Wonderful, wonderful. We do understand that when NPV becomes equal to 0, we are at break-even point. So anything more than 0 would be my benefit. So I will try to make the NPV 0. I'll apply various percentages, 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, and I'll calculate the NPV with every percentage. My values will sometimes become negative, sometimes positive. So I will try to home into 0. Maybe I get my 0 at 13.278%. The point where I get exactly the 0 value, that is called internal rate of return. So that means my business can yield 13%. This is a higher rate than the bank, or it can be even much higher than that. You get this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now to make this thing a bit easier, look at this diagram. You see, when you start calculating, doing the hit and trial, that is very complex kind of a thing. Let's do it graphically. Let's make a graph in which the x-axis shows the various percentages and y-axis shows the positive and negative monetary value, net present value. So for example, my at 12% I was minus 6,000, and at 8% I was plus 8,000. For example, this is just an example. So my 0 lies in between these two values. So let us draw a straight line from these 2 points. I do not have to calculate so many other values. Just take 2 values far apart and 2 points will emerge. Connect these 2 points and see where your 0 is likely to be. Say it is 12.4 something. So if you try 12.4 as a percentage, it is a high likelihood that you will get a 0 value or a value very near to 0.
10.4.
So is it a straight line? Actually, no. This is actually not a straight line. If you look at it from actual point of view, this is a curved line. This is actually a curved line. But if I know 2 values and connect it with a straight line, I would be something ahead of that line, a little ahead of that line. So that brings me very near to 0. So I can subtract some value and I can get to my 0 value. At least it has taken me to nearest to that value. So like in this case, the value is 17.9%. You see this? This is how you calculate the rate of return. Although this is slightly difficult as far as the hit and trial thing is concerned, but you see there are computer programs available which can calculate your IRR very easily. Right, that is all about the cost benefit analysis. Actually, this cost benefit analysis is not exactly the topic of cost management, but it is
नहीं सर 15 मिनट 10 मिनट
Okay, so this is not exactly the topic about the cost management. This is about anything. Wherever you have to make a decision, you will use the cost benefit analysis. You will use it in feasibilities. You will use it in business case. You will use it anywhere. And even within the project, you are making various decisions, various quality decisions, cost decisions, and many other decisions. Everywhere you have to apply all these methods. So this is a general knowledge, which because there was a word cost benefit analysis, that's why I discussed it in the chapter of cost. Otherwise, this has nothing to do with the cost. This is basically a general conception. So cost benefit analysis is a technique which we have just discussed. Now coming back to your cost management chapter and the processes. The processes are comparatively very simple. You know, the plan cost management process is 100% similar to the schedule management plan process. Plan schedule time management was exactly the same picture. You see, inputs we had project management plan, project charter, enterprise non factor, organization process assets. Then we had in tools we had expert judgment, analytical techniques, and meetings. The only difference is where it was schedule management plan, here it is cost management plan. So as far as this is concerned, there is no difference absolutely. So we develop the cost management plan here. Then we move on to the next process. Estimate cost. Okay, before we talk about the estimate cost, let me show you one odd thing. Yes, there are many kinds of estimates which you can make at various stages in the project life cycle. Rather, before the project life cycle, before the project has started, there are estimates which are called lump sum estimates. These are those estimates which have no rationale at all. Your boss has called you and he asked you, I'm trying to, I'm coining with the idea of building a 5-star hotel. What do you think it will cost me? And you may have some experience of building 5-star hotels, so you give him a rough idea without even considering how big this 5-star hotel will be and how many rooms would be there and what location it would be. So you give a lump sum estimate, which might not prove exactly true, but the accuracy of such an estimate would generally be considered as minus 50% to 100%. That means if you said 100,000 rupees, then it would the actual estimate is very likely to be between 50,000 and 200,000. Then a little bit better estimate, but still a rough order of magnitude. This is done before you start the project. That is the time when you are doing the feasibilities or you are doing kind of the business case assessments, etc. There also we have some facts available, but not all. So we again try to make some approximate estimate, and this is called rough order of magnitude. The accuracy of this estimate is minus 25% to 75%. Meaning what? If it is 100,000, that would be from 75,000 to 175,000. That would be the limit in which the project is likely to be done. Then comes the budgetary estimate. The person who is ascertaining the budget of the project does not go into the minutest details of calculating each and everything. He does that on some rationale, on some parameters, and he also creates an estimation. He is not going to calculate all the bricks and all every item. He will just say, okay, what is the rate of construction in this area and how much space is to be built. So he will just multiply these two figures and come up with a budgetary estimate, which is fairly good because that is calculated out of the averages of the previous construction. But the accuracy of this kind of estimate is -10 to +25%. Meaning what? If he says 100,000, it would be between 10% and 90,000 and 125,000. Then comes the project manager himself who makes the definitive estimate, and that is the detailed estimation which is done in estimate cost. And this is done bottom up. That is, each and every item is calculated and an amount is allocated to it, and then at the end of it, all the amounts are aggregated to find the total estimate. This is the most accurate estimate, but still it is estimate because uh, it has yet not happened. Actually, when we do this job, it may be a little plus or minus. So how much plus or minus that can be is -5 to 10%. So if I said 100,000, then it will be 95,000 to 110,000. This is the flexibility in definitive estimates. Okay. Okay, in estimate cost, very similar to the duration estimate as we have discussed in time management, we need to have here as input the cost management plan, the human resource management, because we have to employ the human resources and we have to consider their rates also. Scope baseline, schedule, risk register, these things are required along with the enterprise environmental factors and process assets. Now we can use expert judgment. We can do analogous estimating. Analogous estimating, as you remember, yesterday we talked about analogous estimating is creating an analogy from a previous experience. Parametric estimating, as I just gave you the example, project manager has to use all the tools, although his estimate would be bottom up. But parametric estimating, he must know and employ where required because he must know how the budgetary people are going to estimate. Therefore, parametric estimating, he also must know what is the per square foot rate of construction and how much construction is to be done. 6,000 square feet, then 6,000 multiplied by that much amount would give him a approximation on how much will be the total cost of the project. But at the same time, he will also do the bottom up estimating, calculating each and every part at the bottom level. 3-point estimating, as we discussed in time management, this is to cater for the standard deviation. This gives us more accurate flexibilities. How you say this job can be done in 500 rupees, but people are there who claim that they have done it in 200 rupees, and people are there who claim that it can only be done in 700 rupees. So there is a range available. Although I will give more weightage to the most likely value, the middle value, but at the same time, this estimate will be corrected according to that. Then we calculate the reserve analysis, how much reserves have to be kept for each activity as far as the cost is concerned. Then I have to reserve some money for the cost of quality. I have to, ensure quality assurance and control. Then how much money I am ready to spend for that. Project management software can be used. Vendor bid analysis. If I am unable to find the cost of an item, then probably I will ask various vendors to bid for that, and then I would know after the vendor bid analysis how much it will cost me. I will also employ group decision making techniques with my team, discussing with them, and ultimately I'll come up with the activity cost estimates, my basis for estimates, and the project documents will be updated. The basis for estimate is basically uh, the reason how you came to the conclusion of your estimates. So everything you estimate, you must provide a basis for that estimate. Maybe it is a formula, maybe it is an analogy, maybe whatever you have used, all the reasons are to be provided because when they have to allocate you the budget, they will have to look into it. They will check the budget when the budget is going to be allocated. They are going to check your estimates, and if you do not provide the basis or reasons for those estimates, then it will be a great difficulty for them. So this is the cost estimate, and I think we should close it down here. Tomorrow we will talk about the budgeting, and the control, and a very important topic, and that is earned value management. That we will discuss tomorrow. So, any questions so far?
No, sir, it's quite clear.
Sir, no questions. Just a remark that there are so many websites over there which give you the net present value and they calculate everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just put in the yes. So you don't need to go into buying a software for this now
Oh, yeah.
for calculating.
You can even do
There are
it
lots.
on Excel. Everything is so simple.
Yes,
Even your calculator these days, calculators have these formulas built into it.
yes, definitely.
But you see, we need to understand the things as if we can use them.
Actually, the concept should be clear that what needs to be done actually.
Exactly,
So
exactly,
that is how you can use a calculator or a website or some anything.
exactly,
You need to find
exactly.
out what you need to do. Do you
Yes,
need to calculate the NPV with or the IRR or what?
exactly, exactly. So I think we should call it a day. Thank you very much for joining me, and we will see you tomorrow, same time, uh, tomorrow, inshallah. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you
The
so much, Allah.